side management as well as demand side management. When we talk of supply side management, then there are opportunities for us for augmenting water availability through robust infrastructure like dam, barrages, canals, as well as wherever those infrastructure are existing, there is a lot of opportunity for renovation and modernization. Side by side, we have to take care of our water bodies, focus on rainwater harvesting, then look for alternate sources of water supply like desalination, and then also focus has to be on interbasin transfers. Groundwater scenario is also very critical, and we have to have a judicial use of groundwater resources. When we talk of demand side management, we have to also provide adequate network for water supply, reduce non-revenue water, focus on 24/7 water supply. In the respect of irrigation, lot of emphasis has to be given on micro irrigation so that we can save agriculture water. When we talk of wastewater treatment and sanitation management, then we have to focus on the latest technologies for wastewater treatment. Focus has to be on recycling and reuse of water, decentralized sewage disposal, fecal sludge management is a need of the hour in our rural areas, solid waste management, these are the need of the hour. Then side by side, we have to also focus on latest smart technology like Internet of Things, SCADA, remote sensing, GIS technologies. So all these areas present us big opportunities in Africa, Asia, in water sector for the consultants. And if you see the funding pattern of various international funding agencies like World Bank, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, this scenario I'm presenting here. Apart from that, my friend has also told about opportunities through Exim Bank of India, and Exim Bank of India lines of credit are a very good stepping stone for Indian companies. And we all of us, some of us have benefited, and we have got projects funded by Exim Bank of India, which has given us a foothold, and we have increased our presence in those countries through other international funding projects, maybe by World Bank, African Development Bank, or Asian Development Bank. Then in India also there is a lot of opportunity of investment. If you see the figure, more than $280 billion is in water sector investment in coming 5 years through national infrastructure pipeline. When we talk of energy, then there is a rising demand of energy in all these sectors, and based on fossil fuel energy generation, there are impacts of climate change, and we have to transition ourselves to the renewable sources of energy. This graph shows here how energy mix will change from present. Say, if you see renewable energy is 15%, which is expected to grow to 28% by the year 2050. If we see energy requirement region-wise, then Asia will be having the largest energy requirements. When we talk of reliable infrastructure for global energy security, we have to focus on renewable energy sources, then improving our efficiencies in generation, transmission, and distribution. And there are a lot of opportunities available in India as well as in Africa. And besides that, we have to focus on latest technology like smart metering, Internet of Things. Then here also we present the present funding pattern by World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and African Development Bank. Lot of opportunities are available. In India also, $354 billion is to be invested in energy sector under National Infrastructure Pipeline. Now I will just talk you brief about WebCos. So WebCos was established in 1969 to share India's experience and expertise with various developing countries. Over the years, we have expanded our footprints to more than 55 countries, and this has been possible only by exporting Indian expertise there, as well as we have got hold of, we are thankful to Government of India for giving us opportunity, and then we have got a lot of funding and projects funding through line of credits of Government of India. So by that, so I encourage all of you, and you have to participate in such projects, and there are a lot of opportunities are possible. But all those one person cannot do. As my previous speakers have talked, we have to focus on our quality, timelines, then partnerships. And one firm alone cannot work. So we have to do partnership. Whenever my people go abroad, I tell them that you are our representative. But first of all, you should keep in mind, you are ambassadors of India. So whatever you do abroad, first you will think of India first. Then only you have to talk about your own organization. So my request to all of you that follow this principle so that we can keep the flag of country, our country India, flying high. These are some of the glimpses of, we are working in water, power, infrastructure sectors. And these are the glimpses of our projects which we have undertaken for tackling global water security in Afghanistan, Cambodia, Bhutan, Tanzania, Fiji. We are also working in India like Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra. Then in energy sector, Bhutan, Afghanistan, DR Congo, Laos, Mozambique, Niger. Then India, we worked on pumped storage in West Bengal, hydropower in Ladakh, solar in Maharashtra. Thank you. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for walking everyone around the opportunities available, line of credits, and your own experience. Moving on, I think in terms of funding mechanism, digitalization, challenges, and opportunities, we've had a good inputs. We'll next go to the story around energy transition, green sustainability, and how companies in India are leading as global leaders in carbon credits and also in terms of recycling and the being part of circularity. We have with us Mr. Samrat Sen Gupta, Vice President EKI Energy, and I'll request him to share his thoughts and especially educate everyone on this emerging area of carbon credits, circularity, sustainability, and alignment of our services with SDG, and how your company has really made a global benchmark, and what are the learnings that you'd like to share with us?
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent the environment sector. The sector which was earlier been represented in optics and bouquet, now suddenly become one of the risk parameter in consideration of investment. So it's a leapfrog. We were not even part of the core business, suddenly defining how the core business will be going to run. And possibly the environmental derivatives in its present form of risk identification in your financial Excel sheet. It's making the 150 years old wrongdoing of our capitalistic form of development, where financial parameters has not been able to capture the cost of environment and social importance in the overall cost and pricing of any goods and services. So India is leading on environmental consultancy service aspects, but considering the environment was not used to get the required space, and it has been always been on the for your financial report or CSR activities or advertisement purpose, the environment used to be thought about, not in real action. So from 2000, mid of 2000, we have seen the sector in terms of its environmental derivatives getting a financial importance been started with the United Nations or multilateral fora-based platform where lot of Indian projects, particularly our initials renewable energy projects, has got huge amount of FDIs in the form of environmental derivatives, which is presently people are known as carbon credit. And India was the second largest player or importer of derivatives and exporter of that carbon credit internationally. So after China, but our market share was, though we are the second largest, was in the very small or moderate range of 10%. What we have seen in the in this era of 2014, 15 and beyond, when the due to corporate activism, the voluntary carbon market without any regulatory pressure comes up, where corporate, due to their consumer pressure or investment pressure, has taken up the commitment towards environmentally benign business practice. This carbon credit or any other, and now people, normally you people are aware about carbon credit, but there are water credit, there are other kind of environmental derivatives like the hydrogen being talked about as a major energy carrier in our energy transition period. There are hydrogen credit also been in the picture, which are being developed, though it has a carbon valuation, but there are different kind of product in the derivative market which will driving the environmental action or investment towards environmental actions. So India presently almost holding 30% of the supply of environmental derivative in the global market, global voluntary market. This is a huge market, but one way I will request is SEPC that environmental exports, there are a lot of fragmented data. We need to consolidate those data that gives a better face of this environmental service industry to present both internally at our establishment level so that it gets the real attention. Like still the carbon credit or the carbon reduction services we provide to the, we are operating in 14 countries, we have offices, and 40 countries we are doing projects. We do not get any kind of export service related facilities because carbon is not factored in, environmental derivative is not factored in Government of India list to get those facilities as an exporter of service. So that's a major request to our from a environmental service industry to that. And also in future, this will be go hand in hand with all the investment where India being involved. Particularly, I am targeting there are a lot of things has been talked about Africa, East Asia. So when this international investment either to multilateral or bilateral fora being taken up, environment will be the driving factor in deciding either it is energy, water, or any kind of infrastructure development. And the best part of it is the part of geography we are talking about India and Africa, where 2/3 of the, or more than 2/3 of the development yet to be taken place. There is a greenfield development scope. So with that, I like to thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll go to seek inputs from Mr. Yashas Bhan, the CEO of Organic Recycling System. Please do tell us opportunities coming up, especially with the post-pandemic realization that we need to nurture the planet. We need to be more green, recycling of waste. And these things, these trends will drive a lot of investment across the regions, and how the experience in India can then be productized and benchmark solutions sold outside as a strong service revenue growth.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. To start off with, in the environmental services side of export, waste management actually, in my personal opinion, comes at the bottom of the pyramid as compared to others of the export and the environmental side. As an organization, organic recycling system, it's been almost 2 decades now to us. We started off as a technology developer, from being a technology developer, implementer to a project developer as an infra pro company. We realized that there's a need of data, right, on the side of planning. And we got an opportunity just before the COVID, wherein within the institute from Netherlands, UNESCO, IHE, we got an opportunity to conduct a study group from Eastern African countries, Southeast Asian countries, and the Latin American countries to visit India and see all around the solid waste management projects that are happening on the side of collection, transportation, on the side of planning, on the side of processing. And that is the time that as an organization, we realize that there is so much need in these, part of the country, specifically in the East African and the Latin American countries, because there are a lot of similarities. Because one is the diverse, demography of India and the diverse weather conditions in India. It becomes very apt that it can be, adapted to these countries on the waste management side. So what are the opportunities in this particular sections of the developing countries that we see now? Is specifically on the technology licensing side, the engineering EPC side of the waste management projects that are coming over there, the planning side. Because for any of the waste management projects, and I'll be very honest, in India, one of the major challenges in India that, as a project developer, whosoever has faced, or an investor who has faced, is the planning side or the detailed project report or the feasibility report side, because of the availability or on the basis of the secondary data, the planning being done. And I think that is what the trend in these countries are also. But because since we have the data, not just us, there are many other companies. The government is pushing a lot on the data right now on the centralized, collection of data. So that is one of the biggest opportunities that we see in these markets of taking not only just manufacturing or manufactured products in the waste management side, but services, specifically, as I said, to technology licensing, which have been proved in India now. Your pure EPC services, comprehensive EPC services, project management consultancies are the opportunities. But there's also one opportunity that we personally see as an organization for the developed countries now, specifically for the European market or for the United States or for Japan or for any other countries which are way ahead in the waste sector. There are three important opportunities that we see collectively. One is on the outsourcing of the engineering services to India. Like how the IT sector has developed over the period, the cost of monitoring in Europe for these plants, for the waste management plants, the processes, can be brought down if it is outsourced here to India. Because in last, almost a decade, because of the Swachh Bharat advent, the awareness that had come across, there has been a lot of infrastructure development that has happened at the academia level, at the institute level, and also at the project developers or technology provider level as well, or for that matter, consultant level. So that is one opportunity that we see. Second opportunity is the R&D side, because there's a lot of development happening. Even though we talk about the whole zero garbage cities, or there is going to be zero landfill, but to be honest, for any process that you do, there has to be a byproduct. As it goes that, the energy can only be created, or it can be converted. It cannot be created or destroyed. So for any process, there would be some byproduct. And even the European countries are finding it sometimes hard to find a solution. And eventually, India gives a very good platform in the form of industry academia, establishment on R&D side. The third opportunity that we see, because of the diverse demography in India and the weather condition, again, I'm repeating myself, it gives a beautiful opportunity for the European, counterparts to come to India and test their products. Test their products at the worst conditions that is possible, because that would help them as well to take their products to other countries from India. And as everyone said, that the opportunity lies in collaborating, the opportunity lies in JV. And that is what we see how we as developed country, the European counterparts, which have already way ahead in the waste sector, should collaborate with India and take things ahead. That would be nice.
Thank you very much. So I think in the interest of time and trying to be very focused as to what we do, I'd like to share a few points. Um, 2 days back, Commerce Secretary said that we are not fully imagining the potential. Imagine 2047 when India would be a $39 trillion economy. From $5 trillion to $39 trillion as per the roadmap. The opportunities benchmarked market potential based on services is immense. And he said that if we have to really be ready for that, we have to think beyond the current, maybe a limited exposure we have. So keeping that in mind, and also the guidelines and the encouragement from Honorable Prime Minister and Ministry, Commerce Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, who said that $1 trillion should be a minimum target for services by 2030. And it looks realistic based on the market potential that is there. But we also have to change. And of course, we need help from the government bodies. I would request, in the interest of time and focus, because we will present this in a formal manner back to the ministry, what is the one single most important request that you have to contribute towards the $1 trillion economy and make services sector grow 2 to 3 times in coming years? I'd request distinguished panelists here to please share with me so that we can formally submit that one particular focused area that each one of you bring to table for the next set of deliberations. I'll start from that side and then we'll go one by one. Please, my request, keep it focused, 2 minutes per panelist, and I'll be taking notes. Thank you.
So I think for opportunities for the waste sector to go into the export market, one of the requirement would be the standardization on the waste side. The waste sector doesn't have any standardization, to be honest, in terms of the technology that are being developed in India, or for that matter of the consulting formats that are being done. So there has to be a standardization in this, which the government should push for.
My one important thing coming from the environmental derivative sides, when the sector is growing, from the government, we should expect, before the sector is taking its first step forward, we should not bring in too much of red tape. If there is a red tape requirement, it should be clarified more. Because we have seen that every newspaper carries those red tape informations as their punchline without contextualizing. That diminishes a lot of foreign investment in the form of environmental derivatives in India. That's
domestic firms should be given some preference to our international consultancy.
For Atmanirbhar Bharat to really be Atmanirbhar, we need to change the definition of Indian company. The Indian company today is one which is registered in India and pays taxes in India. That is all, that is how it is defined. And as a result, most of the Chinese companies are increasing their trade in spite of the fact that we have sentiments against that country to increase any trade. But the facts are totally different. And that is because our definition is cookied. We need to have a definition like the one in the UAE or in the Arab world, where they say that you have to be at least 60% of partnership has to be from a UAE resident. And that's what I propose we should have, at least 60% partnership of an Indian company, Indian nationals, before it is declared an Indian company and gets any benefit of Government of India as far as Atmanirbhar Bharat is concerned. The second thing which I would like to recommend is that we must start supporting the business efforts of Indian consultants, just as we had in the past, and I had raised day before yesterday also in the meeting with the Commerce Secretary, that those consultants who go out and invest and win a project, please reimburse their marketing fee so that they can reinvest it in new markets. This was there earlier by the Exim Bank, but unfortunately Exim Bank was taxed by the Finance Ministry and they lost their money and they were unable to continue that scheme. That scheme needs to be restored by whatever funding Government of India proposes through whichever channel. Thank you.
In my view, linking to my previous revision, unless we don't support Indian organization within India, we will not be able to develop capacity, preparedness, or capability of our own organization to compete in international market. Because with less pre-qualification, less similar kind of experience, we cannot compete with international companies when we would like to go global. So this is the first priority government should take to promote our own organization within India. That is the one. Second one, like ease of doing business, we are talking most of the time. Same thing should happen, like the regulatory things, financial transaction should be made easy. Remittance sometimes is very, very difficult from outside, means from India to outside, abroad, or from abroad to India. So there are lack of clarity available about taxation of the country where we are targeting our export. So these are two, 3 points which I would like to highlight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I will also mention the same thing, that Indian consultants should be preferred compared to the internationalization of the consultancy activities. Besides that, our Indian companies should participate across the sectors projects under the lines of credit, or be it in bias credit, so that a better price discovery would be arrived at. Thank you.
I'm an architect by training, so I will kind of talk about the infrastructure projects, right? So I think one of the things that is lacking in India is the government mandate on technology. Most of the countries where you see projects being completed on time and on budget are where the technology mandates are. Here, we end up not finishing projects on time, and most of the projects overrun by costs and delays, and that too is actually taxpayers' money, and we don't have enough. We should be actually working towards using whatever we have and deliver more projects than what we can, and that can only happen if we use technology. And I think some of us spoke about Indian consultant getting work and all of that. So I just want to give you a small analogy that I look at. We have, I said, 200 companies doing BIM services for US and Europe. They're delivering some of the finest projects in the world. Lusail Stadium for FIFA, just a moment. Lusail Stadium, where you'll see the FIFA inaugural, it was done in India. Kingdom Tower, the largest, the tallest building in the world, which is going to be unveiled in another few months, 750 meters taller than done in India. So
what is the key ask?
We need technology mandate in India so that consultants use it and deliver better.
Yeah. Thank you. Before I kind of summarize, I request Kapilaji, he had another suggestion. Yes, sir.
We have got an amendment to the GFR for the information of everyone. After 13 long years of struggle, I could get that done in October last year by a notification from the Ministry of Finance. We no longer require to go to L1. You know, what was ailing the industry was that works were being awarded to the lowest bidder. This is no longer necessary. And that is what we need to get reflected in the various RFPs of the various ministries of Government of India, so that the problem of getting poor work because of least cost is completely avoided. This has been done for all the three, the procurement of goods, uh, contractors as well as consultants. The GFR stands amended on 28th of October last year, and please get this into the various RFPs of the government. That's what we should emphasize, so that we have better quality product from India, which will be able to showcase that we now do timely work and good quality work. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we're running short of time. I've exceeded. My apologies for the next session to begin, but very quickly, there's a lot of inputs. I'll quickly summarize them so that we can take them to the next stage and the real work starts. Quick summary around digital savviness, projects being mandated, education learning to have more 3D, 4D focus. Indian projects, what is the definition of Indian company? PQs for a fair level playing ground for Indian firms to compete on lines of credit and other ODA loans, World Bank loan projects in India. Country profiling strategies for a long-term planning, JV consortium for end-to-end work, improve quality of engineers, education policy, skill building in India is a must. We need to standardize many of this. Urbanization will drive a lot of opportunities. Data around environmental derivatives, including recycling, needs some standardization. There are opportunities both in CapEx and OpEx. We also talked about, I think a couple of panelists talked about, if we want to be truly Atmanirbhar and embrace ease of doing and Skill India mission, Indian firms must be part of iconic first-time projects in India, as has been done by various countries outside. I think we have great talent, and that must be leveraged. Only then can we do services and exports and earn revenues and put India on the center stage. And lastly, I think less regulations, more industry participation in policy making, especially for new areas around recycling, carbon credits, to help us create a stronger infrastructure around future growth. Thank you very much, all the panelists, for your suggestions. We'll put up the note in a formal manner through SEPC. And I encourage all of you today attending virtually or physically. SEPC is really putting forward a strong formal approach towards taking these things to the next stage. I think members, please do involve additional colleagues in the industry to join SEPC so that we can formalize and take it to the next stage and be part of a $1 trillion service economy in a well-defined manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the panelists. May I now request Dr. Ajay Pradhan to please come to the stage to present a small memento. Mr. Amit Sharma. Mr. Vishwas Jain. Mr. Vishwas Jain. Mr. K. Kapila. Mr. Saroj Kuntia. Mr. Rajnikant Agrawal. Mr. Samrat Sen Gupta. Mr. Yashas Bhan. Mr. M.K. Sunil. Thank you, sir. This brings us to the end of session 2. We shall now go for lunch and reassemble at sharp 2 p.m. for the next session.
Sure.
Can I request everybody to be back to the seats, please? Can I request everyone to be back to the seats, please? Can I request everyone to be seated, please? Can I request everyone to join us for the next session, please?
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. The session will begin. I request those who are having their sweet dish to please kind of carry the sweet dishes and come here. है ना, स्वीडिश यही ले आई जाए, अलाउड है यहाँ पे? ठीक है, मैनी साहब ने, हाँ, so please join so that we can start and then we can end early. See, the incentive is that the day will be over. We all want to leave early. So I'll request my other colleagues to join me on the stage. Mr. Rajneesh Chopra, Rajneesh Chopra, International Head, BA Tech Wadak. Our pleasure in welcoming Mr. Pankaj Kumar Singh, Advisor Infrastructure, Ministry of External Affairs. Very, very thank you. Great word of thanks to you, Pankaj, to find the time and be here and share your views, your experiences, the issues and the challenges as you see in doing business in the global environment with specific reference to expected financial support. I think it's a mouthful of a session, but after a nice hearty meal, I think we can do with a good mouthful session also. The other colleague I'd like to join is Dr. Rajshekhar R. Malur, the SVP and Head Plant Engineering Design of Tata Consulting Engineers. Tata Consulting Engineers is, of course, we had the Managing Director, Mr. Amit Sharma, here with us. I'm sure he will then sum up the key takeaways after this session. We plan to end the session in about 45 minutes. It's already, I think, nearly 2:30. We have, yeah, it's near 2:30, and we were to begin a little early, but we are beginning late, but we'll also end early. And that is because speakers like Sandeep Chauhan and Yogesh Kumar Mishra, they're not coming. So organizers, can we begin, or can somebody just go and tell people having lunch or the lunch to kind of join us there? So the loud announcement is that all the dinner, the lunch should be kind of withdrawn now. Really great. So, so how do we do this session? See, I was discussing during lunch, we have not been able to really get a sense from the participants, the delegates, of what's going on since morning. And probably because we had slotted question answer sessions, but due to paucity of time, we always missed it. You know, we kind of just went ahead. There were hardly any question answer sessions. So what I would suggest to the panel is that rather than the panelists share about their experiences and the issues and challenges of doing business and about financing focus, rather than them beginning to make a full exposition, I think there is a lot of value in directly in asking for a kind of good presentation which will set the questions rolling. And this is about India's development partnership initiatives. See, many of you are aware of what we call colloquially the lines of credit. You know, since morning I've been hearing that, and we had Saroj Kuntia from Exim Bank talk about line of credit. There is a lot of excitement about somehow getting, you know, riding the lines of credit bandwagon. But you know, that's one important part of the initial market entry into those economies. We're talking of exploring business opportunities worldwide, world over. But the lines of credit were a tool or an instrument designed under the what is called the India Development Partnership Scheme, IDEAS scheme. But some colleagues were not fully aware of the IDEAS scheme. So I'm sure you will talk about that. Now, this is a scheme of the Ministry of Finance. So Finance Ministry in very close, you know, liaison and, you know, with MEA and the Exim Bank. So Exim Bank is a financial institution, and it is under the Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance. But the diplomacy or our external arm is the Ministry of External Affairs. And Ministry of External Affairs gets its own funds from the government and the budget. So Ministry of External Affairs has its own funds, but it is also able to leverage funds that the Exim Bank can raise from the international bond market. The Exim Bank doesn't have its own money. It doesn't get money directly from government to lend, but it gets a capital. Then it can leverage up to 10 times its net own funds. So if Exim Bank has got $1 billion, then they can raise from the bond market, international bond market, $10 billion. And then Exim Bank can lend. And so that is the cycle of funds. So over the years, the capital base of Exim Bank has grown. It is still small. There's an act of parliament under which now it has been opened up to literally an unlimited amount, but still it is regulated by Reserve Bank of India. That limits the lending power of Exim Bank. China Exim Bank, for example, is not regulated by the China Development Bank. So they can borrow unlimited money and they can give monies to any countries because they are not regulated by the Reserve Bank. Exim Bank of India, good or bad, there is a jury is out on that issue, but we are still a regulated entity. The US Exim Bank again is not a regulated entity. It is an extension of the US Treasury, so they can lend unlimited money. So the US Exim Bank is also called the Boeing Bank. The Boeing company, when it was set up 80, 90 years ago, Boeing company sold its planes world over by extending credit to the buyer country or the airline company of that country. And why did US Exim Bank do that? Because it was a tied loan and that country had to buy only Boeing. Even today, US Exim Bank is often called politically, there's a big debate in US on the existence of US Exim Bank. But brutally, openly, Exim Bank of US is for promoting sale of Boeing. 95% of the loan is on Boeing. So why I'm giving the example, China Exim Bank, China Development Bank, big institutions, they have balance sheets of over $1.5 trillion. They have lent $1.5 trillion, but that is not a regulated bank. They have lent money. If those countries default, then the China Development Bank bondholders, which are all over the world, they will suffer. Similarly, if Exim Bank has given a loan to, let's say, Yemen, we have given a loan to Yemen, we have given it to Sudan and other defaulting countries, I don't know, you would be aware, there are 10 countries which have defaulted to Exim Bank on giving the loans. So, Exim Bank has given loans to about 72 countries and 10 of them have defaulted. So Reserve Bank tells Exim Bank to take provisions, just like any other borrower doesn't pay. So you have to make provisions. So the government of India then compensates Exim Bank for that defaulted amount. But the default on the borrowing side, so if Exim Bank doesn't pay back the bondholders at the end of 10th year when the bonds come for redemption, then those bondholders have no recourse. Government of India will not pay the bondholders. So it's an open exposure to the world, but these economies did it, but we in our own conservative strategies did not allow Exim Bank of India to leverage the global markets to fund projects. Maybe the thinking is now changing and we may see in the future more emphasis on injecting capital to other buyers. So this is basically a buyer's credit. Buyers को आप पैसा दो तो तुमको हमारा ही जैसे HDFC कहे कि मेरे से तुम लोन लो और फिर तुमको HDFC की ही real estate खरीदनी है. So brutally we should admit that the lines of credit are tight, 75%, because we go in details, but financing is available. And for consultants, about 1% of that Exim Bank line of credit is available. So there is a cap into the scheme, 1% for the early stage project development. Getting the DPR and the concept and DPR, 1%. So Babcock and Rights and some other consulting companies have gained. And I think that's a big, you are all aware that there is need to have good DPRs, but maybe 1% is too small. So those questions will come up during the day. During my time in Exim Bank, we were struggling, but ultimately it's a loan, it's not a grant. So that will still remain as a concern, whether it should be increased to about 3%. My personal sense is a good quality DPR for an infra project will not cost you less than 5%. And then, of course, that will include post-project evaluation should also be done. So I think there is that big space for project exports, but when we're talking of service export, largely under the lines of credit, the first priority is for core infrastructure projects. But service exports comes in second and third priority. I think that there is need when we are promoting, let's say, export of a film or an IT product by an IT company. So the lines of credit are typically not available because it is coming in the second and third priority. But again, as I said, there's a rapidly changing space. So with these remarks, I'll stop. I'll request, invite Pankaj Kumar Singh to make his presentation, and then we'll take Rajneesh ji and then Rajiv. Or may you like to make quick comments, then you can come to your presentation. Maybe that we could do it that way. Thank you.
Mr. Rajneesh, your opening comments, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. The topic which has been given as as an organization, how to counter. I can tell you that there is always a way. Many years, Southeast Asia, beating the notorious influence. So we have learned that, by, I view is that collaboration. That if we collaborate, develop our credentials and references, I think that's something which we have practiced. We have been successful today. We have definitely water technology wise, companies, terms of even services, which is operations and maintenance and service. Today, Global Water Intelligence rated us as a 4th player based on the number of people we serve. So there is always a way around. I think what is required, especially the topics, that we need to be encouraged for what we are. I think there were certain schemes which were helping us to combat competition, especially coming from countries like China, Korea, great amongst them. They have a certain edge because of the government. Be able to battle out all the figures because of they enjoy sport. But that makes a difference. Second thing is to be in the global competitive market. But we are in India. I think that's very true. It definitely changes the perception about the quality of projects we do. So we take a lot of pride in saying that we are European origin. But today, most of our global references are the ones which have been executed by our Indian people. We have seen, in Middle East, a lot of people felt that only it is the Western world, especially in the oil and gas sector, which can do the jobs because over a period of time have executed good projects, which also have a component of major component of engineering. Without that, do that, and that's the service is for. But we have been able to convince a lot of people, especially in the Western world, that we can deliver European quality at an Indian price. So maybe for the time being, I'll limit my comments to that.
Sir, Ajit Roy, Director, Pushpa Water Solutions.
Thank you. So, incidentally, as a professional, I joined Toshiba few months back. Before that, I was in power sector and did couple of national projects at Europe or one thing is very clear that Indians have represent spend. Having said that, when we do a lot of EPC projects, even now we are doing a lot of water projects around. Thankfully, we are getting some Japanese within us in terms of standardization and mistake or giving assistance towards engineering inputs. When we do an international project, the minimum expectations is engineering input or the output that we give. It has to match with at least the basic standards of which is let's say European standards or minimum standard, which is an international standard we call it. I think I have been doing international for the last more than 10 years and things have been much improved now. And there are many Indians we are into an more affairs into the senior positions of those which are earlier used to be supervised by the international team. To that extent, definitely we are doing. Coming to the topic today, I think we are doing many projects around the globe where there are support from basic related to customization of specifications. Often we see, the spec itself made in a way to support the local vendor. So we come and discuss in more details. We will come around, but I'm sure there are many areas where possibly the local embassies can support us. Which will help us in, see, there are two kinds of services that we do: offsite services, on-site service. On-site service when we have to presence ourselves with our team members. Those kind of places, I think there are a lot of support that the embassy can help us and extend, not in terms of maybe financials, but in terms of support, local support, making some, checkpoints, supporting hand to finalize a JV, for example. So maybe we discuss, we stop it here. Thank you.
before, the company was saying, last 6 years, specific focus to Bangladesh, will be for India to the large.
Thank you very much, sir. How to move people. Right, so I actually have overall outreach programs under the India's development initiatives, partnership. So under Ministry of External Affairs, we do not have in India a separate aid agency, right? Here or a so what we have development partnership, and we look after the entire development assistance programs and the grants. Very, very strong focus on not each other. So what I do is, I think we've had many of these. Wanted to give. This is what we do, and this is the scope of opportunities for the grant-in-aid projects, where again, even if it is an infrastructure development project, there is there are DPRs to be made and there are PMC contracts. There are grant-in-aid projects, lines of credit. These are all mostly infrastructure development projects. Also with capacity building and technical assistance, and with the academia, trying to develop capacities, these are tailor-made to be time institutes as well as private. That neighborhood is a focus, and I think it is easier for countries also, for companies also to, if they're wanting an international exposure, to start with the immediate neighborhood and also branch it out. So then companies like Capricot, right, who have deep experience, rather than that. But maybe companies which are starting out, there are few companies in my neighborhood which can be a part of. There is a very, very broad trust there. I just wanted to move to the kind of project that we do. So, Pradhan Parliament, we built, so architects and consultants, DPR makers. The Metro Express project started off with a small phase 1. Phase 2 is also already completed. Mauritius has asked for a phase 3, which is already sanctioned, and they have now asked for a phase 4. This goes to showcase the strength of the delivery also, not just the credit terms or the kind of funding we but if the country is unhappy with the quality of the project, it will not come again and again, right? So this again is a huge project and a lot of consistency to that $50 million hydroelectric power project in Port building in Mauritius. This again was an interesting project. And we just had a period of around 2 years. They are committed to hold the conference that size, and so it was for assistance and about period of 14 months. So we were airlifting, that was service. But we delivered in time, and the applicant. But there are also people-centered projects. So if there are consultancy firms which are involved in mega projects and they are starting off small. Small people go projects one captures the rest of them. Then we move to the lines of credit, which is the essential. This is our biggest game in town. We have trebled our portfolio in the last 5-6 years. So this huge. The point I want to make is that you may have a very attractive financial instrument, or you may be very strong in project delivery, but unless you have both, customers will not come back. So we partner countries as clients, as customers, and have to deliver, right? So we started off at $10 billion in 2014. We are at $32 billion. This figure again and again, but it is something that we are proud of, that we have trebled our portfolio literally. Credit are for the borrowing governments, but these are really concessional terms. So we talk about China all the time. Chinese instruments have got this feedback over and even though their trade terms are usually they diverse details, but like Vietnam, tip of the boards where the comparison of Indian lines they're not very close. But this is the kind of tenors and rates of interest that we offer to borrowing companies. And so we have now close to $32 billion over 600 projects. We've already finished around. So what are the kind of this is what we are happening with, not just doubling of the LAC sanctions, but also we have the completion rate also pretty fast. Sanctions in UNS, if products were not good, really Russia wouldn't have asked for a line of credit. So a country like Russia has asked for $1 billion LAC for development of its security also solar energy or refinery defense. So just talk with the top UI line of initiatives in the last 5-6 years. I was part of that journey. I was brought into this assignment to set the house in order. And that in the last 5-6 years, we did a lot of. There is also this project preparation facility. So for consultants, PR makers, if the country is not able to articulate its LAC project, articulate what sort of a project select a consultant right and then they what based on the line that's the projects that we have now started. What are the challenges? So the topic what are the challenges? So difficult operating environment. Countries which are facing they are also some of the most important factors in the world. So for Indian companies to have the appetite to go to DR Congo and work in science projects on a hydroelectric power project where there is a lot of damage going on. That's something that have the appetite for that. But the companies which do have the appetite to assured business, and we're seeing a lot of interest now. Some of the PPP companies, so balance. Last 5, 6 years, it's now that have to lift that's the kind of interest that the EPC players have. Unfortunately, in my personal experience, crossing amongst the consultancy firms. Why? Maybe it's a difficult topic to keep in mind. Is that something which is good? Here from the lot of challenges. Very sort of it's looking to the plan. Giving this approval processes are also complicated. Then it's also heard criticism about LSE process being slow. Then the World Bank process and the AIM process from the time of the conceptualization of the project to the first bulldozer hitting the ground. The our timelines, it's 1.5 to 2 years. So people say that 2 years, obviously, that's enough. That's enough. None of the hit the ground. So we our processes, our sampling processes, there are so many factors you cannot control, but 1.5 to 2 years for the time. And the questions that is support to such a long period. So, Mongolia, they wanted a little project, we gave them $1 billion, the government changed, they wanted a refine. So after 1.5 years of working with on railway projects and trying to but we have to move. So right now we are building the largest ever LSE project in the history of the school. Is now in Mongolia, 1.3 billion. Over doesn't affect the country. Even if there are probably not to affect the country. To assure you, your payments are your different case exams loan are getting affected. Government of India guarantees are there. Your billing exercises, try to your partners in the industry figure out where are the things. Yes, they are. Are they quick? Yes, they are. Distance, stable and safe. Yes. So, it's very safe. Also down where they abroad. So, example Bangladesh, close to $8 billion of LSEs and $1.5 billion worth of plans and other projects. That's 10 billion already. You see the announcing projects that are worth another $1 billion. That's how much? 10 to $14 billion straight away. Contracting done, 2 billion. So what is the opportunity? 12 billion in the next 3 years. And the rate of progress has gone up by many. We crossed the 2 billion contracting this year, 1 billion disbursement. That's this next goal. Similarly, mentioned. There are challenges, there are opportunities. It's already pretty long. So I'll be open to what are the expectations, what are questions. I'm very happy to engage and have an open door policy. I will please follow very, very much. Possibly this week also, but unfortunately because of Prime Minister. But anybody, any skills are
Thank you. I think very good. And round of applause. Yeah. So, the session really is about two topics. So we request even whole sector critical. Movies go global. So how does that happen? Who's financing? How the rights of, let's say, exhibiting like an Amazon? Why only an Amazon is taking the Netflix and the Amazons are taking Hollywood movies and showing them around the world? Why cannot Indian business companies set up these OTT platforms and actually get business back to India? So I think we have to look innovatively at the other instruments of finance. One of them is the whole issue of the letters of credit, not the LOCs. But I'll open it up now to you guys from the engineering consulting business, somebody from architecture business, I think some other, yeah, Mr. Singh he's the owner of Mantech, I think. Yeah, please, Mr. Barara. Keep the questions short and then we can take many questions before we break up. There is totally, and I've been saying that last minute that we should have a kind of a
Not only CEAI, CEAI.
that technology for certain skills. I'd like to
That's one very important point. And regarding the support, I believe already those points have been highlighted. So, and the last session, what we has mentioned, in fact, with Amit just discussing that we cover so much of the entire services sector. So not only on this sector, but every services sector could be one session or series of sessions with MEA itself and SEPC. So that will actually help the exporting community in this particular services sector.
Just to add to what the DG has said, the Services Export Promotion Council has, I think nearly 20, at least 20 have been identified as services. Construction and architecture is just one or two of them. I think two of them are covered here today. There are about 18 others. So, but all of them are not covered in lines of credit. See, what I'm trying to tell, the Ministry of External Affairs, the government is not allowing the lines of credit for, let us say, making a movie in Nigeria. You know, if Nigerian film industry says that, oh, I want a line of credit to make movies, so the government of India under the IDES guidelines will not allow a movie, you know. So but if you projectize into a film city, that we will build a whole film city, so then it can be packaged. Let's say purchase of merchandise. If Tanzania wants to import vehicles from India, then under lines of credit, it won't get covered. But if they convert it into a transportation project, they will make a bus stand, they will have a repair facility, you know, bring in some tourism, make it into a project, then it can get covered. So I think the opportunity for we consulting community people are, how do we projectize goods and combine them with the services? The moment you combine service and goods, that you call a project, which unfortunately Reserve Bank doesn't call that a project. It says anything with a deferred payment is a project. You know, so these are some of the areas which I think it's still an emerging area, but I think the questions are, I would like to respond.
Thank you very much, sir. Contrary to the image of Bharat Sarkar, we are trying to be nimble, right? We are learning from you, from the private sector. So, sir, when you were there in Exim Bank, you're right that the services like movies or maybe even supply projects were not covered. Well, they are now. Under lines of credit, we are actually supplying buses and road construction equipment, etc. Yes, yes. So, absolutely. So, so it was started during your time, and now it's expanded. So, supply of railway rolling stock, so rights, rights' business. All the business of supply of railway rolling stock that RITES has done over decades has been through lines of credit. I'd like to start from this point. So the information asymmetry is something that we would like to address. As of now, Exim Bank's website captures all the ongoing tenders, whether they are consultancy tenders or EPC tenders, supply project tenders, so every tender is featuring on the Exim Bank website. Maybe the website needs to be more friendly. Maybe it should be upcoming opportunities a separate web page altogether. Sort of it can go into the sector that you want to go in. But this information is available. Do we have a publication which we circulate? No. So the days of the paper publications are not there. Maybe a digital e-magazine Exim can start and start circulating to the so an brochure or an newsletter of sorts. So this is immediately I've noted this down. Maybe we'll go back to Exim Bank that information asymmetry. We've heard this on many of these outreach programs that we've recently. We try to address that. Apart from this, the sessions with any, well, please organize. We'll come and talk to as many people as you want, and as many times as we want, for example. Now, in the sense that when we started our reforms of the LOCs in 2015-16, we figured that these structures will be perceived as very rigid, right? There are, this is the step 1, step 2, step 3. So we execution sector, execution area, huge number of companies have joined. In the consultancy area, we still struggle with names. Now, for example, there's a hospital construction project. We find a grand total of 2 names who have registered at some time with Exim Bank of India when they were registering the panel of consultants. So how many of you are actually in the hospital or medical infrastructure development sector? Maybe the number of players is actually small. There's a gentleman who raises and you're there, right? So, but I don't think we are aware of the fact that maybe we should have reached out to you when we were struggling with the project in Ivory Coast.
Pankaj, I'll stop you there. See, what the question we have been raising is, unless consultants get an opportunity to do a hospital end-to-end project in India, they cannot go and showcase it in, let's say, Tanzania. Problem क्या आ रही है कि इंडिया में ही फॉरेन कंपनीज आके इंडिया में हॉस्पिटल कंसल्टेंसी के प्रोजेक्ट को जीत जाएंगी. यूपी गवर्नमेंट ने निकाला कि हमको 10 अस्पताल बना दे. None of the Indian companies can qualify because उन्होंने जो standards रखे, they want an end-to-end hospital project. 10 hospitals, not only the teaching college but the buildings, the end-to-end. And they want one company, Tata Consulting and let's say CEG, other big consulting companies. But they have never been able to compete or even build up because the requirements are so large. So foreign companies, so UP mein tender mein, all the companies were foreign companies.
Based out of India.
Not based out of India. They've got businesses elsewhere. 99.99 are local fellows who naam apna le aayenge and they will build up everything from scratch. But they will take the business, they will take the credentials. So still when you call for tenders for an Indian company, it will be that foreign company which is already now come into India through this high standards. So Indian companies, truly Indian companies हैं, उनको opportunity नहीं मिलेगी. So it's a vicious circle. जैसे आपने comment करा ना, hospital में कोई भी नहीं आया. तो जब आता भी है कोई इंडिया में opportunity, अब जैसे metros बना रहे हैं इंडिया में, 20-25 साल पहले metro आ गए थे. एक भी इंडियन कंपनी के पास एक सर्टिफिकेट नहीं है कि उसने एक completed metro project पे काम किया. Zero. All foreign companies, and they opened up office in India. And I think Amit and others, and we are taking this up. आपसे भी ये request है, lines of credit में भी, मैं भी Exim Bank का CMD था, 14 से लेके 17 तक, 2015 में वो जो amended guidelines मेरे time पे निकली थी. Still the issue of the Indian company was a big one, because we are trying to attract Mercedes-Benz to come and set a factory in Chennai, or Daimler. Why? Because we want them to manufacture in India. Immediately they said, if we manufacture in India, will we be eligible under the lines of credit? So we had to say yes. So the catch is that when you are getting FDI into India, it will piggyback ride your LOC. Amit, that's the question you are saying. So we have to take a call on that. We do not want FDI in, let us say, hospital consultancy sector. Hospital consultancy or other areas where we have in-house. Maybe it's a space research where we don't have capabilities. Maybe we should allow FDI. But I think something has to be done on FDI sector itself to allow the initial Indian consulting service business to build up. I think that's the. Sorry, I jumped into your questions. But I think we'll ask other panel members to join.
No, it's not only, sir, what you said, it's not only in some specific, even in refineries, other than Engineers India, it's only all MNCs and this definition, I mean, it has been repeatedly talked about, definition of the Indian company and the PQ requirements that set. See, we can do nuclear plants, we can do, we can propel PSLVs and GSLVs and whatnot. So why can't we do anything for the first time? How will any innovation happen if we don't permit? You don't even permit JVs also. That is another problem. See, even if a JV is permitted, we can join with somebody. and then develop those competencies. So the Chinese Design Institute is an arm for reverse engineering. That's all. So we need, instead of restrictive PQs, a fair PQ. We are not against competition, but we need fair PQs.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned, I'm not aware about the metro or hospital sector, but I think JVs is the only way, we can create the credentials. And although this information is outdated by quite a few years, I think at one point of time, even EAL was, tying up with other consultants to create a global footprint. So if today EAL has those credentials, probably why the private players cannot, form a JV with them and go abroad, because maybe they have certain strengths and the PQ, and a private consultant like Tata Consulting, they bring a lot of value on the table and their global exposure. So I think that's one way out, and as I said in the beginning, 10 years back, we didn't have credentials, although I'm referring more to the EPC and the O&M, which is purely a services sector if we do it outside the country. I think that's the way. With collaboration, we have developed those credentials, and today probably we qualify for most of the projects unless any specific barrier is concerned. I think that we all do as part of our marketing exercise.
Yeah, I think there are lots of topic discussed about the financial support which is happening. I would like to touch upon a bit of other softer areas where, like we do a ease of doing business in India by Prime Minister. But what about ease of business doing by Indian at abroad, right? So here, I think, I don't know how much MEA or the embassy, so small things, we need an urgent person to be sent at site. We are doing EPC projects. There are times of commissioning, construction, or we are also doing O&M services where a machine can stop running at some point of time and you have to send an expert. And it takes possibly 20 days to make a visa. Why can't we have an express visa arrangement for specific type of projects, maybe World Bank related or ADB funded Indian projects where an urgent support is needed and I need a visa, I get a visa in 2 days. I mean, there are similar things happens in Oman, we could get it, but we struggle. We are doing a project in Georgia, for an example. We are not getting visa in 7, 10, 15 days. So that's one, okay. I would say local compliances. See, law of the land would prevail. We will not be able to do much. But when, as an Indian company, we are going abroad to do business, I mean, in the service sector, there are many due diligence had to be made. Many local authorities, I mean, there is no other way but to hire a local consultant, maybe tax consultant. We have a permanent establishment requirement, right, for services. So is there anything, and our team there can support maybe a kind of structured checklist or support in advance to be given. A similar thing, a support for when I was touching upon about the JV partners. I mean, we are doing a couple of projects outside, and obviously in many of cases when we have elections has to be carried out with crane arrangement and all, you have no other choice but to have a JV. Now, we have a limited information and we take credentials and go ahead. Something happens, for an example, Ukraine war has made the things change completely. Now, is there anything, I mean, there are chances of having, for an example, contractual dispute. Is that something Indian government can do at us to support us at the first point? Not that we will battle, we'll have the battle with this partner, but is there something can be done from the government support, at least to start with, right? Lastly, I would say about, we were discussing in the morning about, capability of Indian engineers or consultants worldwide. But in terms of, there are many cases, they need an accreditation. For an example, we are doing a project in Philippines where every engineering document has to be vetted by a consultant? Why there are local chartered consultant? Why can't we have as a BIS? I think they are also working in that area. That if this particular subject, a guy, getting passed out, he is equivalent of those standard chartered engineer who are required to be approve those documents, or for the example, inspection of a material. So from BIS standards, is there something, correlation of the IS code with the international standard can be done so that the people in India passed out that particular subject and they are treated as equivalent to that global chartered engineer? I mean, so I would rather, I know financial supports, it's a big topic and everybody is touching upon. I think the quality will only be achieved if that ease of doing business at abroad by Indian are also to be ensured. And I think some support from MEA or the local embassy would be really helpful. Thank you.
Sir, मैं एक और example देना चाहता हूँ, just last example.
You know, terribly out of time.
Okay.
We will just wind up in 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Pankaj, talking, another example is this DRIPS phase 2, 10,000 crore World Bank funded project. Not a single consortium led by an Indian company is qualified. And despite a CEAI taking it up, the company's MD taking it up, all are the consortiums led by MNCs. अब dam rehabilitation में कौन सा technology है which will require, an MNC lead, right? So these are the things that are bothering me.
Any other question from the audience?
Actually, this is in response to Mr. Rajiv Roy. You mentioned about Indian professionals not being considered qualified. There is something called International Professional Engineer, which is run by Institution of Engineers India. And as per global agreement, IPE or an international professional engineer is required to be considered equal and capable of working anywhere in India. Only it has not been pushed enough. There are IPEs who are doing work and who are acceptable, but because there have not been enough push from the country or the government, that's why some of the developed countries say, oh, we don't accept. But developing countries very often accept this.
Thank you for the clarification. Any more questions? Yeah, from that side. Yeah, youngers, any young consultant. See, many of you are not becoming consultants, go out and get more college pass outs to, join consulting. Piche. Yes. वो पीछे देना एक बिल्कुल. Yes, stand up. बोलो, ask your question.
Hello, sir. Sir, myself, Dr. Madan Yadav. I am by profession professor in IGNOU. So my overall question is about whatever the India's economic and industrial policy. You said since morning the Make in India project, Sansad Gram Yojana, smart cities. But look at the last 7 years. Our Prime Minister announced last year during the pandemic, we are going to Atmanirbhar to investment of 20 lakh crore rupees for the Indian economy, boosting the Indian economy. But today, if you look at the Indian economic conditions, in context of the global economy, whatever the recessions due to the impact of the Ukrainian war, what happened in the Taiwan and many more things. So what will be the future economy? Already you announced that it's 5 trillion, 6 trillion economy, but is it that possible? You know that कि हमारे आम जनता जो है महंगाई बहुत सी ऐसी बातें हैं जो हमारे जो ग्रोथ है उसको कहीं ना कहीं पॉजिटिव से लेकर नेगेटिव डायरेक्शन में लेके जा रहा है.
प्रोफेसर हैं आप, खुद इग्नू में प्रोफेसर हैं, ये जवाब आप बताइएगा हम लोग को. थैंक यू सो मच. एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? या उधर पीछे. एक
Good afternoon. My name is JVL Narayana. I'm representing RV Associates. You've talked about the transparency of the projects in an early stage. What the question to you, sir, is that is there any fact-finding machines that the government is actually encouraging to identify projects early, even before the project pre-feasibility is being conceived? Thank you.
So I think we'll take one or two more questions, and maybe from the panel, anybody can respond to any of the questions. Yeah.
Hello, sir. My name is Vijaya. I'm the founding director of Architude. So we are a very new consultancy firm. So the projects that we are discussing here are not less than 1,000 crores, I'm guessing. But on the tech space, I think India is on par with the Western countries as well. So what is that that's being done to promote startups like us in this segment?
Hello.
So I think, we can quickly respond to a few questions because it बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा. So startups के लिए SIDBI और Government of India startup का बहुत सारी schemes हैं. तो global markets को capture कर रहे हैं. There are a lot of funds available. Our banking system है. और there are a lot of, if you have great idea, funding is not a problem. Actually, that's what we hear. तो आप पूछ रहे थे कि is there any pipeline? मतलब would you like to respond to some of the questions? Because it seems कि यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट को आप ही विकेट कीपर आप ही पकड़ में आए हैं. यहाँ मैं भी रिटायर्ड हूँ तो आई एम नॉट इन गवर्नमेंट. So I think वो जो भी गवर्नमेंट पे दिशा है वो आप संभालिए.
Absolutely, sir. And so मेरा ambit थोड़ा विदेश मंत्रालय से limited है, of course. And so I will not be able to answer the Ministry of Commerce sort of questions, right? So what can be done by the Ministry of Commerce to do X, Y, and Z? But चूंकि ये international financing for international projects का session है, so इसलिए I'd like to just respond with that perspective in mind. So as I said, information asymmetry duly noted, credentials duly noted, right? So this is again emerging as a big one, that Indian companies on their own cannot have credentials unless they do projects. So it's a chicken and egg situation, which is fairly obvious. Well, the JVs are something which we can work with, right? Especially for consultancy. So we did not want JVs where one partner did not have any experience, let's say in the hydropower sector, but he would be an equal partner and then make a complete hash of the project. So maybe we will still be conservative in the execution part of it, where each of the JV partners will need to have some background of the kind of project that they're wanting to do. But consultancy, this is coming up as a big point. So maybe even if an Indian consultant hasn't done a similar project, but is tying up with somebody who has, then at least both of them will get the credentials for the project that they do. So this is something which I will certainly go back to Ministry of Finance and to Exim Bank, and at least for the consultants, because we want our list of consultants engaging with government projects abroad to become much larger. So that's certainly learning number 2 for me. Other issues, ease of doing business, urgent person to be sent abroad, experts to be sent for ADB, World Bank project. Well, we do it for LOC projects, for sure.
I think Amit can tell you it is called project visa. Can you tell about any countries that start this now? We can note in which country has got a project visa policy. Or maybe in the bilaterals, we can ask countries to give India the project visa facility. Yeah.
We could study, Mr. Singh, we could study other countries which have specific critical project definitions and project visas, which are different than individual visas. And with the project visa, there are other related issues like permanent establishment, minimum number of days before you create that, then withholding comes in. So it just gets complicated from there on. But a project visa is a special category of visa.
Amit, I can add to what he said on this lines of credit. I tried at that time, I couldn't succeed. China, jab line of credit deta hai, so they take 5,000 blank visas, literally. They say that hum aapka pura bridge bana rahe hain, road bana rahe hain. So they would actually take 5,000 blank visas. They can send anybody from China.
This is prevalent.
That's the project visa. And they would say that if we send our labor, then we will reduce the interest rate.
Yeah.
If you take a local labor, तो वो जो 25% है ना, वो जो non-Indian component को भी वो visa लेके और further interest rate घटा देते थे. And they would send their criminals from the jails. to do the work. They were all in this project visa category.
So, I would, and they would
And they would
leave
say
them.
that don't come back.
Don't come back. They
Marry
would
a
leave them
local
there.
and then stay there.
Well, Africa has learned, and our neighbor Sri Lanka has learned. Yeah. So Africa has learned, our neighbor has learned. So I think we should learn the positives and not get into restrictive or other areas. But I think positive is when you're doing a strategic project in which you are providing expertise, it is default to say that humans have to travel and do the project, which means the category of project visa solves a lot of these issues. The second point I want to say, even UK has a project visa when they did projects in Middle East for the last 40, 50 years. I was part of that ecosystem, pretty much understand the UKTI and then the DIT, how they do the trade promotions. And it's about companies, bidding against each other when they're bidding in UK. When they are going out, DIT or UKTI made it very clear, you will not compete against each other and create consortiums. That's the second part. And I think last point around the ability to offer expertise. This is a knowledge-based economy. Our product is our ideas and our certificates. And the question outside is to the consultants, contractors, architects, have you done this in your own country? And if you haven't done that in your country, nobody will look at that.
Amit, you are doing the key takeaways and vote of thanks also.
I have it.
You might as well stand up and do both of them together.
Mr. Singh, back to you.
Certainly the project visas concept we'll explore, but for the LOCs, I must tell you that we have this arrangement for MEA funded projects that we certainly follow up on the 2 to 3 days is what we take to send our people across Bangladesh and the neighborhood countries. And a similar speed is what we try to achieve for. Yes. So the work permit again becomes slightly different. It's a different document altogether. But visa, certainly we are working on that. And maybe if there are people who've engaged in the LOCs, you'll find that we have become much more sensitive. We run not a very large establishment in many countries, but every place, every embassy now has a nodal officer for projects, LOCs and grant projects, as well as his role is also to facilitate companies which are wanting to take up projects on their own. So this also leads me to the next, what are the facilitations that we can do at the level of Government of India? Well, certainly arranging meetings is part of their, designated work now. So in case, company X wants to go and engage with Ministry of Power, you have to get in touch, over telephone, over internet right now, have video conferences with our people there, and then they will help you. So in case you get stuck up, reach out to the concerned territorial division in MEA and say that we are not getting help here. So, as I said, we are learning from our experience, but can a local company, this local company you're wanting to do JV with, is it good and all? So maybe, even our chap sitting there will be Googling it away, so he would not have project expertise to help you with such detailed comments. So facilitation is something we can do, but not really due diligence. That is something that you'll have. Yes.
Some kind of structured checklist for doing a JV at that country with that local partner.
Okay, so these are, we would welcome.
Helpful on bilateral tax and withholding tax. I think those are areas where we can seek more intervention, particularly on the tax issue. Amit, I request you to. So I'd like to really thank my panel. And,
hello.
We can clap for ourselves.
I have one question. Is it okay if we take this one question?
So I'll just answer the RV Associates person. Fact-finding missions to identify projects. Well, it's a demand-driven process. So we don't really go and say that let's do an IT project or let's do a hospital project. It's demand-driven based on the national priorities of the partner government. So MEA will not be, pushing certain sectors at the expense of other sectors, right? So that happens as per the national priorities of the host government.
Hello. Can we take one question?
I think we have no time now, please. You can take it offline.
Maybe after the session while we are,
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sirs. May I now invite Dr. Abhay Sinha to the stage, please. A small memento as a token of appreciation. Mr. Yadvendra Mathur. Mr. Rajneesh Chopra. Mr. Rajiv Roy. Mr. Pankaj Kumar Singh. Dr. Rajshekhar Armalu. Thank you, sir. Can I request you to be on stage, please? This brings us to the end of the session. This conclave would not have been possible without the immense support of our sponsors. And I request Dr. Abhay to please be back to the stage and also invite Dr. Ajay Pradhan to present mementos to our sponsors, please. Our lead sponsor, Capricot. Can I invite Mr. Amit Jain to the stage, please? Can I invite Mr. Amit Jain, please? Co-sponsors, Tata Consulting Engineers Limited. Can I request Mr. Amit Sharma? Mr. Malur to please accept the award. Our sponsors, Intercontinental Consultants and Technocrats Private Limited, Mr. K.K. Kapila, please. Can we have a representative from the company? Organic Recycling Systems Private Limited, Mr. Yashas Bhan. Architute, Mr. Vijay Durga. I'm so sorry, Miss Vijay Durga. Stand corrected. Our pen sponsors, Euphoria Architects, Mr. Bhupendra Kumar. Pen drive sponsors, GRC India. Can I request Mr. Aman, please? Thank you, sirs. I would like to now invite Mr. Amit Sharma to share key takeaways and present the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Could I have the music down? Yeah, thank you. Before I talk about summarizing, let me take this opportunity to thank the Commerce Ministry, the various Joint Secretary, and of course, Commerce Secretary, Additional Secretary, and the Joint Secretaries who initiated the brainstorming session 2 days back. A lot of preparations that has happened with SEPC leadership, Dr. Abhay Sinha, the SEPC Chairman and Vice Chairman. I want to thank them as well. I want to thank the entire team of SEPC who worked in the background to collect a lot of data, to invite the right kind of people for the 500 odd registrations, the live telecast that was done. So great. And I think we need to replicate this more. The true value of Service Export Promotion Council with the Ministry of Commerce is really telling you opportunities that exist and how they will facilitate. We've thought of SEII as a script that was actually making people join. It's only one out of the 20 things that SEPC does. And the most important is SEPC to open doors for you in markets, to seek government interventions where we need support for ease of business, even to modulate and create domestic policies to ensure that our services, products, goods, etc. can be exported outside. Please use this forum. Do encourage new members to join as well. So with that, I think we've had very interesting last 3 days and a lot of weeks before that. And it's very difficult to compress all this. We've promised the Commerce Ministry to have a white paper that will put in all this data. I would encourage you to please write email to the DG at dg@servicesSEPC.com.org. And we would make sure that in this white paper, your inputs are also captured if we were to miss, because there's a lot of interesting inputs that came in. But if I were to summarize under 5 buckets, the most important topic was services export is about offering experts, credentials, and success stories. And if you haven't done those in your own country, you can't offer them outside, which means a policy approach in terms of domestic project with a fair balance between the best expertise the international consultants have to offer and what the Indian consultants can offer jointly. So some mechanism for collaboration and JV, which will also set the stage for similar collaboration and JVs for LOC and other projects outside. And there should be a fair balance that promotes competition and fair PQ criteria, because we also want the projects to succeed and also want to make the consultants from a skill set perspective, maybe project of national importance and competency development will kind of meet these objectives. So there'll be a broad story around this first topic. The second is the industry also must need to show continuous improvement, benchmarking, certification, change in education, and a much thrust in chartered engineership. Maybe engineers bill will get that. So there is a whole story around that. The third is around the digital mindset. As projects, when we do outside as consultants, environmentalists, architects, or contractors, we must have a strong digital mindset to do 3D, 4D, 5D, contract management, audit trail, risk management, project planning, controls are important. The fourth point was on ease of international service exports, where we looked at the need for promotion, support by EXIM, project visa concepts, especially help around withholding tax, permanent establishment. So it's all that financial come MEA involvement. And I think we had some good session with Mr. Singh, and he promised that he will take back. And fifth topic, if I were to put all this together, was around a strategic long-term thinking, including country profiling, competency build-up, and an end-to-end project capabilities that truly changes the community development in those countries, and that will create strong threads for us to continue our good work for many, many years, and that good word will spread. So community development, local knowledge transfer, working with local consultants in Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, where we provide projects. So these are the 5 categories I could compress our last couple of days of deliberations on this. I would request you to kindly do send your inputs at dg@servicessepc.org, and we will take note of that and present the white paper as well. With that, may I please request Dr. Ajay Pradhan and Dr. Abhay Sinha to please come for the Felicitation and Excellence Awards by CEAI.
Engineering consultancy services play a major role in the development of a nation and its infrastructure. It is the primary engine that drives or enables the project execution process and forms the basis for further contracting or construction activities. Recognizing the important role played by engineering consultancy, the Consulting Engineers Association of India, or CEAI, member association of the International Federation of Consulting Engineers, or FIDIC as we know it, instituted the CEAI Annual National Awards for Excellence in Engineering Consultancy Services. The awards are in two parts. The first is the Lifetime Achievement Award that is conferred on individuals on the basis of their track record of over 35 years at national or international levels in engineering, consultancy, and exceptional service to the country for technological, economic, or social development. Selection is made on the recommendations of a search committee. The search committee was headed by Mr. Umesh Shrivastava, Executive Chairman, Holtec Engineering, as Chairperson Search Committee, and the members were Mr. K.K. Kapila, CMD ICT, Mr. Sudhir Dhawan, CEO Aether Engineering, all past presidents of CEAI, Mr. Girish Mishra, CEO Sabiram Engineering, and Ms. Harshita Jain, Director CEG. So ladies and gentlemen, we shall now have the CEAI Annual National Awards for Excellence in Engineering Consultancy Services 2021. We are awaiting our chief guest. He had been responsible for diverse projects in India and 19 countries abroad. He had been a member of the board of directors of STUP and was entrusted with the development of the organization in new areas of specialization. He has been invited by the government of West Bengal to chair the Bridge Advisory Committee set up for inspection of all important urban bridges and recommendations for rehabilitation. He has been commissioned to chair the technical advisory group appointed to oversee the inspection and restoration of Vidyasagar Setu. He has held important positions in various professional institutions, like chairman of the Civil Engineering Division of Institution of Engineers India, West Bengal Center for many years. He was elected as president of CEAI, the apex body of consulting engineers in India. He has been nominated to the Council of the Institution of Engineers India by the President's Committee as an outstanding engineer. His first book on engineering aspects of Howrah Bridge of Calcutta, 1943, has been recently published by the Taylor and Francis Group, which has also turned out to be a collector's item. Thank you, sir. The second Lifetime Achievement Award for 2021 goes to Mr. Arun Prabhat Mal. Consulting Engineers Association of India is proud to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. A.P. Mal for his extraordinary contribution to the engineering consultancy profession. Mr. A.P. Mal obtained his degree of Bachelor of Technology in Civil Engineering in 1967 and Master of Technology Structures in 1969 from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. He joined Tata Consulting Engineers in 1973 and occupied various positions and was the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director from 2004 to 2009. During his tenure, the company experienced exemplary growth to become India's premier consulting organization in the private sector, operating in diverse sectors. He expanded operations domestically, set up offices abroad, and encouraged collaboration with educational institutions. Later, as director on the board, he continued to help in promoting business, building capacity and capacities for TCE. In his long stint in TCE, he has been responsible for diverse projects, including some of national importance and international ones. He's actively associated in the area of human resources, engaging with people in all walks of capacity building, especially encouraging women to take up the challenge with a can-do attitude. He has been a speaker at many international and national technical and business conferences, workshops in India and abroad, having led Indian business delegations overseas at the invitation of the Confederation of Indian Industry. He was involved in the review and publication of codes for practice for diverse engineering subjects as a member on sectional committees of Bureau of Indian Standards.
Good evening, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and I feel highly privileged to accept the CEAI Lifetime Achievement Award. I sincerely thank the awards committee for selecting me and also thank Dr. Pradhan, President CEAI, and others concerned for organizing the function. There are mixed feelings, but I feel truly humble in the presence of so many eminent and distinguished engineers. I would also like to express my thanks to all those who molded me, my teachers, my parents, siblings, friends, colleagues, mentors, and seniors, plus my family. I'm grateful to each and every one of them for bearing with my idiosyncrasies, inquisitiveness, and mania for search for certainty to do the things the right way around. Their apt and frank comments helped shape what I am and what I do. Fortunately for me, the workplace culture, of which I've had the good fortune of being a part of, have always been very open. One could just go and seek guidance or comments from whoever would be the best person or person, who could also be a junior, male or female. Everyone approached or concerned would contribute. There was no bar on adopting new techniques that allowed out-of-the-box thinking and gave us freedom to introduce concepts and ideas long before they were introduced in codes and standards, not only India, but even foreign ones. So you can always do better than the MNCs. There was no internet in the early days. So it was all hard work at the desk and also in libraries. Even when personal computers arrived, we did not accept any output unless it synced with our rational expected results. That check paid rich dividends. Engineering has become commonplace, but its complexities and long-term effects are seldom appreciated. Engineering is very exciting, challenging, and one has to give it one's best to be able to extract the maximum benefits. In fact, during my tenure as the head of TC, I encouraged and also made sure that more female engineers were recruited. I also handled and encouraged freshers. Mind you, if we don't do that, there is no future, so that they could give their best. Because ultimately, it is they who have to replace us. Along with my colleagues of the CEAI Western Region Center, we have been able to make CEAI known and also generate interest among a large number of engineers. And one of the gentlemen who has been helping us is Mr. Jeffrey Nambiar, sitting out there. Even the southern region was being looked after by the western region till a few years ago. Engineers are the nation builders. People do not recognize that. And that's the image with your cooperation is being portrayed through CEAI's viewpoint. It's a journey that will need patience and fortitude, since it is long and not easy. With that thought, I would like to once again express my gratitude and appreciation to all my teachers, friends, colleagues, mentors, seniors, and my family who sustained, helped, and their cooperation have got me to be standing here. I will always cherish this award. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to now request Mr. Amitabh Ghoshal to say a few words.
Well, I shall really say a few words
as requested. It's naturally very, very satisfying to be recognized by one's own fraternity. But I have only last month completed 65 years of my professional involvement. Of these 65 years, the first 21 years, I was with a construction organization, internationally acclaimed construction organization, who had a rich tradition of engineering and design. Then for 3 years, I was a client, and I appointed and got service from consultants and contractors aside. Then for the balance period, more than 40 years, I have been in the consultancy field, and I recognized after my 65 years in the profession that here is one fraternity who is responsible for more than 50% of the reasons for success of a project, but they work with a fee of average only 1%. You know, this is a community which works, makes projects successful, but financially, they have never been looking for gains. That makes me proud as a consulting engineer professional. And this is a sector which requires support from the consultants who do not realize their potential, and from the authorities who can get rich dividend by encouraging this profession, as their fee of 1%, the Indian consultants, stand out against 6 to 7% fees of international developed country consultants. Even Indian consultants, when they work for Asian Development Bank or World Bank, they get 3% to 4% consultancy, because professional fees are decided based on your country's economy. And that is why an Indian team leader gets less than a developed country associate. And even then, we make 3 to 4% of the project cost. So I look forward to the consultancy profession prospering, and that is my fond wish, and I hope to see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We next go on to the organizational and individual awards for 2021. CEAI's endeavor is to recognize excellence in engineering services in order to inspire and motivate its practitioners. CEAI invited applications from both engineering consulting organizations and individual consulting engineers to participate in this competition. CEAI appointed an external jury comprising eminent persons and experts to select the awardees. They were Mr. D. Bhalla, former secretary, Lok Sabha and advisor, Government of Nagaland, chairperson of the jury. Mr. D.K. Sharma, chairman, Himachal Pradesh Electricity Regulatory Commission, former CMD BBMD, and former head of engineering, L&T Engineering. Dr. M.R. Ravi, professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Delhi. And Mr. I.K. Pandey, former Director General, Road Development and Special Secretary, MORTH. The national awards in engineering excellence go to the following. We'll be presenting the awards under organizations first. Under category A, project engineering, under group 1, where the turnover is less than 50 crores, the award goes to Tandon Consultants Private Limited from Delhi for the project on Chennai Metro Rail project, consultancy services for design and construction of underground stations and associated tunnels. Could I request Professor Mahesh Tandon to accept the award? In group 2, with a turnover above 50 crores, the awards goes to Consulting Engineers Group Limited, Jaipur, for the project on consultancy services for Rajasthan road sector modernization, funded by the World Bank under IDA credit. I request Mr. Vishwas Jain to collect the award, please. The second recipient in group 2 with a turnover of about 50 crores, and the award goes to Mott McDonald Private Limited, Noida, for the project on engineering services for SRF state-of-the-art chemical complex at Dahej, Gujarat. I request Mr. S.S. Acharya to accept the award. Recipient under group 2 with a turnover of about 50 crores is Wapcos Limited, Gurgaon, for the project on extension of Lake Victoria pipeline from Tabora, Igunga, and Nzega towns, Tanzania. I request Mr. R.K. Agrawal to accept the award. Our next award is in the category B in engineering innovation. In group 1, where the turnover is less than 50 crores, the award goes to Kempro Expertise Private Limited, Mumbai, for the project detailed engineering of the CSP expansion at Nagpur. I request Mr. Jeffrey Nambia to accept the award. next award is in engineering innovation in group 2 with a turnover of about 50 crores. And the award goes to Reinforced Earth India Private Limited, Delhi, for their project on rehabilitation of landslide location with slope protection and drainage improvement at Tendharia on NH 110 in Darjeeling, West Bengal. I would like to request Mr. Atanu Adhikari to accept the award. The next award is under individual category for engineering innovation. And the award goes to Mr. Satyam Gupta, BNS Engineering, for the construction of ROB at railway kilometer 1429 between Ghaziabad and Maripat railway station on NH 24 at kilometer 20.213, which is part of the Delhi Merit Expressway Package 2. On behalf of CEAI, I would like to thank our esteemed guest of honor, Dr. R. Rath, CMD Oil India, for giving away the awards. Our esteemed jury members for the Engineering Excellence Awards for organizations and individuals, Mr. D. Bhalla, Dr. D.K. Sharma, Dr. M.R. Ravi, and Mr. I.K. Pandey for contributing their valuable time to select the award winners. Our esteemed search committee members for the Lifetime Achievement Awards, Mr. Umesh Srivastav, Mr. K.K. Kapila, Mr. Sudhir Devan, Mr. Girish Mishra, and Ms. Harshita Jain for the extensive effort in selecting the Lifetime Achievement awardees. The untiring effort of the CEAI Secretariat and all members who have supported the awards committee. Thank you all.
Now, since we have Sri Pandey Saab is here, he's one of the jury member, former Director General. I'd request him to just give few words of his experience and the process as we followed. Thank you, Mr. Pandey.
Good afternoon. It was my proud privilege to be a part of this event, and I really congratulate the CEAI for holding such events and has given me an opportunity to be a part of the jury for awards, selecting the awardees. It was a very important task to us, but it was very simple as well because very few nominations has been received. I expect that many of the innovations has not been, which has not been, come forward so far, should be, sent to this organization for recognizing the efforts of the engineers. One of the, most important thing which I consider is to recognize the efforts and the ingenuity of the engineers, which is not being given due importance and due recognition by other authorities as well. Of course, whenever a default comes, brickbats are given, from all corners, but it is, hard to listen good words from all other authorities. So it is our own prime responsibility to recognize the engineers in the first instance and hold events to felicitate their efforts. Thank you.
I'd like to just give a small memento to Pandey sir for his support to CEAI. I would like to request Dr. Ranjit Rath to say a few words.
Good afternoon, President CEAI and all the office bearers, the captains of the industry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm aware of the fact that CEAI is doing a fantastic service as an association. But today, by virtue of attending this award ceremony, one thing I get reaffirmed, that the value of recognition and the value of appreciation of good work would always continue to encourage the youngsters. And as the former TCE chairman, Mr. Mal, while receiving his Lifetime Achievement Award, reiterated, as engineers, we are actually problem solvers. And it becomes more difficult when we deal with projects which is dealt with nature, and which is also evident from the selected projects. And one of them I would like to acknowledge is the slope stability that has been done in the eastern part of the Himalaya. So, I mean, we would like to see more number of participants. Then I'm sure CEAI must have got a good number of competition, and then the jury members must have had a tough time to select 1, 2, 3. And sometime we must also accommodate under consolation prizes. So, I mean, good to see some young entrepreneurs also. That is what I'm sure CEAI is standing for. So all the best to the entire office bearers and everyone who participated in the competition, and best wishes for the future events like this. Thank you very much.
Small memento from CEAI and SEPC.
Thank you so much, sir. Like every good thing must come to an end, we near the end of our special one-day conclave. The panel discussions by industry, academia, and government were not just informative, but an eye-opener of sorts. On behalf of SEPC, CEAI, and CEAI, once again extend a very hearty thanks to everyone for gracing the occasion and sharing with us their findings and opinions. Thank you so much for being a lovely audience and a participative audience. The house is now open for networking, and tea and snacks have been served outside in Aspire Hall. Thank you so much. I once again repeat that the tea and snacks have been served at Aspire Hall. The directions are displayed outside. Can I request the entire staff of SEPC to please come to the stage for a photograph? Can I request the entire staff of SEPC, CEAI and CEAI to please come to the stage for a photograph.